I should take my iPad out. I can't rush into this. Oh, I need to speak at the beginning of the meeting. I just remembered. Yes, about Bob. Yep. All righty.
Talking about you, Bob.
Telling you. What about Bob? I'm sailing. Great movie. Great movie.
This is done. While the boat moves.
So you don't think I should say that?
Wednesday, because then the election's over.
We're going to have a 20-hour day, right? I know, but Jody is doing something with Dan here before we find okay, are we?
Passing notes.
Yes. It's kind of like school.
School. School.
Yes, school notes.
They're not very good at it. Everybody knows it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, November 2nd. It is 6:02, and I will call the meeting to order and give the floor to Commissioner Kropa.
Should I change the microphone? I just wanted to let everyone know that on Sunday we lost a great patriot in our community, a guy named Bob Featherstone. He's a Garfield Township trustee and a Korean War vet, and really one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And he leaves behind a family that misses him very much, and so do we. So a moment for Bob Featherstone and his 30 years of service to our township and his 10 years of service to our country. Now for the pledge, because Bob would have loved that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Sarah.
Lathrop,
I'm here.
Kropa,
Here.
Crawford. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Maxbauer.
Here.
I show Wheelock and Klaus is excused.
All right. Are there any changes to the minutes of our October 19th meeting? Seeing none, they stand approved. This will be our first opportunity for public comment. Sarah, would you read the rules, please?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners, which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioner questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may at his or her discretion extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
All right. At this time, we have our first opportunity for public comment. Would anyone like to step forward and make public comment, please?
My name is Ted Ahrens. I live in Onekama, Michigan, 2110 Crescent Beach Road, Manistee mailing address. I'm a Vietnam veteran, Marine Corps, and when I retired in 2003, I decided to do work for veterans, so I've been doing that for 13 years, and I set up endowment funds. My wife and I, we fund it with my partner, who's Dr. Wagner. He came out of Cadillac, and he lives in Manistee now. But that led me to involvement with Gold Star Mothers, and I know about 5 of them. And Gold Star Mothers are very special people. They have lost their son or daughter in our wars, and they live with that decision all their life. So my wife Pam and I, we decided to start off a fund to do the statue that you see in front of you there. We donated $15,000 with the Grand Traverse Regional Community Foundation, and the statue and installation is going to cost about $60,000. So what I'm asking for is that the the counties that are involved, there's about 5 of them, and they're right around here. But that they help with the statue, I'm asking for $5,000 if that's possible. And it doesn't have to be decided this meeting, but at some future meeting, whatever. And I just want to make a case for that and see if you can help. Any questions?
You may have said it and I might have missed it. Was this to go in Veterans Memorial Park here
Yes.
in Grand
Yeah,
Rapids?
I did not say.
Okay.
Yes. I wanted to put it at Manistee Veterans Park, but the Gold Star Mothers talked me out of it, so.
It is a pretty nice park.
And it was
we
pretty
have.
hard to say no to them. So,
Dr. Johnson?
And if I remember correctly, because I've seen this at several meetings we've been at together, it's a $60,000
that's correct.
is the estimate, and so far $20,000 has been raised for that. And if it will fit properly on that property, the idea is to have this overlooking the rest of the memorials there. So it's, the Gold Star Mothers really, I mean, they have had the ultimate sacrifice, so it's just to pay tribute to them. And we live in such a veteran-centered community that it's just one more addition that would be wonderful here. So.
And to my understanding is, Bob, there is no statue for Gold Star Mothers in the entire state of Michigan. Wow. Which I find hard to believe, but that's what they tell me.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
I've got a picture here for you. There was a story in the paper that they did. I've got some donation sheets for you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Would anyone else? Ms. Rogers, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I have a statement to read from Judge Stepka and Judge Phillips. They could not be here this evening. They're attending a bar meeting, which is the local bar association meeting. They're going to be honoring one of their colleagues, Judge Rogers. There will also be a presentation of the Madeline Thomas Award. And so it was pretty important for both Judge Phillips and Judge Stepka to be there. Judge Stepka was a law partner with Madeline Thomas and has a particular interest in that. And that event, the Bar Association meeting, was scheduled long before tonight's agenda was scheduled. The district court had followed the procedures in requesting that the matter that's on the agenda tonight would be removed, and the board has refused to remove it from the agenda. And the judges were wondering, has there ever been another time that the board has refused to remove a matter from an agenda when that removal was requested? The district court has a proud history of working with the county. They're not certain why certain members want that relationship to turn adversarial. The court's a separate and equal branch of government. We recently read in the paper that there's a deficit, and it said a deficit is a deficit. And considering rejecting the proposal that the district court has, which would actually be a savings, seems counterintuitive. You've all taken an oath of office, as the judges and I have, and considering rejecting a proposal that would be cost-saving as well as assisting in the administration of another branch of government, the court, might be violating that oath of office and the oath that you took in upholding the Constitution. The very essence of the Constitution is the concept of the separate and equal branches of government, and for you to interfere with the right to administrate the court is a clear violation of that Constitution. You may wish to consider conferring with your attorney as to the adverse consequences that the county might face if that violation were to occur. We would ask that you set this aside for the next meeting so that the whole board has a chance to decide the matter and that we had a chance to more fully inform. I'm sorry that I didn't get back with Ms. Krupa in answering all of her questions, and I will stay if there are other questions too, please. We would invite you to return to a cooperative and respectful partnership between our respective branches of government. We would implore that you recognize us and that you be true to your oath of office as well and to uphold the Constitution. And again, I'll stay, and if you have any questions right now, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Any questions?
I will defer with the chair's permission to allow her to come up to answer my questions that she wasn't able to answer during the time that we discussed it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Next is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes, additions? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Mayor.
That's fine. Everybody's excited about the coming election, and I was at a meeting last night where the City Planning Commission couldn't make a decision on a Darga project because they seemed just preoccupied. So they let Mr. Darga go without a decision, which was quite sad. My name is Tom Mayer. I live at 612 Fifth Street, and I'm a candidate for County Commission, and I just want to encourage everybody to vote. There's 3 city proposals, 2 county proposals. They're all written pretty well. I don't think there's any double meanings in them at all. And if you need an absentee ballot, you can still get them right up to Monday. I checked in with the county clerk today because there was some misinformation around town and on the radio about when the absentee opportunity actually ends. But it goes right up until Monday at least. I'm sure you can turn them in on Tuesday, but you can't get one on Tuesday. And everybody should get out and vote. I heard in Michigan there's probably an increase in 20% of absentee voters this time, which is really good to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Matt?
Matthew Scheck, 306 9th Street, Traverse City. The air must be pretty electric. We're getting closer to the election. And I, too, was at a meeting last week. It was more of a church meeting, and I was kind of surprised. They didn't really talk candidates, but the people were really concerned about the coming election, and I think most people in the United States today are, no matter what flavor of partisanship that you come from. But I was impressed that it was a call not only for involvement, people to make a decision, but it was also asking God to be a part of this, to direct hearts and minds, and I was kind of impressed by that. And the only plea that I make for people is my own perspective is less government, more individual responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. And I always thought that was a really good perspective to take. I mean, it's not partisan, but it's appealing, I think, to everybody to really rely upon who's really in charge, okay? So it's not Democrat or Republicans. There's a higher power here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Seeing no additional public comment, next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes, deletions? Dr. Johnson?
I would like to add, I guess it would be under old unfinished business, just a report of the updated deficit comparisons, I guess, if you will. So,
Updated finance numbers
there we go.
from our finance director.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with that addition.
Is there support?
I'll second it.
Supported by Dr. Lathrop. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Next is the consent calendar. Sarah?
Purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If an item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. All information identified on the consent calendar can be viewed in its entirety at www.grandtraverse.org. A, receive and file. 1, Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Minutes of September 15th, 2016. 2, Traverse Area District Library Minutes of September 15th, 2016. B, approvals. 1, repeal of ordinance number 9, disturbance of the peace. 2, Michigan Public Safety Communications System Co-Location License Agreement. 3, fiscal year 2016 budget amendments.
All right. Would any member of the public like any item removed from the consent calendar? Any commissioners? Staff? I'd entertain a
I'll
motion.
make the motion.
All right. Moved by Commissioner Kropa, supported by Dr. Johnson, to approve the consent calendar. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, special order of business, Northern Lakes Community Mental Health. An update and county commissioner survey. Presentation by Carl Kovacs.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to be on the agenda and to give you our annual report and update. I passed out copies of our hard copies of our annual report, and some of the numbers that are in your meeting packet are contained in that report as well. And we're glad to have that to you. I guess the real sections of that report that I really, if you have just limited time and availability to read some of the sections, I think the ones that really are written about the people we serve are probably as meaningful as anything else in that report, because we do that report. People that we serve have shared their stories, and we've reflected it in that annual report. So I think it's great reading. And I am closing out my second year as CEO of Northern Lakes, which is hard to believe. It's gone by very quickly, and I've enjoyed it, and it's quite a challenge, particularly in some of the challenging events that have occurred this year. Probably the most challenging was when the governor proposed his state budget, and there was a section in there, Section 298, which with one fell swoop was going to take the $2.4 billion that funds the public mental health system and was going to place those dollars out of the public system and put those under the control of the Medicaid health plans. Now, I have nothing against Medicaid health plans. In fact, I worked and helped develop 4 in different states. So I appreciate what the Medicaid health plans can do for the general Medicaid population. 75% of Medicaid are mothers and children. The other 25% are individuals with disabilities or chronic issues that require special care. This one fell swoop, without any kind of public discourse in preparation for it, was met by what I thought was great, appropriate public response. And what it did was help mobilize not only the people who are served by the public mental health system, but by providers, by advocates, by counties, by county commissioners, by the community mental health services programs, of which Northern Lakes is one, and the prepaid inpatient health plans, which are the vehicles that channel Medicaid funds from the federal government and the state to the community mental health services programs to provide the services in all of our counties. As you are aware, the Lieutenant Governor set up a special task force that looked at it, and that group continues, and will make some recommendations by January 15th in terms of looking at the system and redesigning it, if possible, if that seems indicated. So there'll be a series of recommendations. And we in the public mental health system, welcome that kind of discussion and scrutiny, because you can always improve systems of care and the way we do business. The thing that's most important is that, and I want to alert you to, is that the public mental health system needs to be monitored by the public. It doesn't, it's not really appropriate to put those funds and the oversight for that program of $2.4 billion under organizations that are, in this case, for profit. Now, there's nothing wrong with for-profit enterprises in most instances. However, when you start talking about the specialty population that Northern Lakes and all the other community mental health services programs serve, it requires special skill and commitment, and it doesn't make sense to take a certain part of that revenue and provide it to shareholders. That's what for-profit entities do. That's why they exist. They do business to provide revenue equity for the shareholders. That paradigm doesn't really fit with the public mental health system. We need to keep as many dollars as we can going into services rather than into shareholder equity. So we will continue to advocate that the public mental health system continues to be governed by the public, and especially the counties, because you, as representatives of Grand Traverse County, are the roots for community mental health. Community mental health is rooted in every one of the counties in Michigan, and if we move it under the Medicaid health plans and the for-profit sort of guidelines, I think we lose some of that community connection. And I think that's very important, because I know the 6 board members that you have appointed to our Northern Lakes board are very keen in terms of being able to communicate to me and the staff what the needs are of this community. That's their job. We're a policy governance board, which is a little different than how you operate. But their duty is to reflect the needs and the desires and the wants of the community. So I think that we need to, in this, keeping it a public system, we need to maintain that. It's very significant. The Medicaid health plans are not used to, nor they have the experience of taking care of our specialty populations that we're responsible for. And while we're called community mental health, that's just one segment of what we do. We take care of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, many of whom are so disabled that they require residential services in the community. We also are responsible for children who have serious emotional disturbance. We're also responsible for substance use disorder services in the community. We accept risk. We welcome taking care of populations that are risky and vulnerable people. That's what we do. That's why we're in this business. So we want to maintain that service level, that commitment, and as a contrast to what the governor's proposal suggested, which was moving us over under the Medicaid health plans, we think that we should be given not only the responsibility to care for mental health issues, intellectual and developmental disability issues, and substance use disorder issues, but we think that they should carve over to us also the responsibility for physical health care, so that we can have then a truly integrated care system that looks at every individual not as somebody with an intellectual and developmental disability only, but somebody who's looked at as a whole person with also physical health care needs. So thank you for listening to my spiel on state politics and policy, but I think it's very significant, and appreciate all of your support as we have a good public dialogue about this, and that we come up with improvements to the system, not just wholesale moving of dollars, because That's not the way to improve a system, in my opinion. On page, I think it's 68 of your packet, is the survey that we annually ask you to complete. And I would like to be able to collect those today. I'll wait around, and I'll wait till the end of the meeting if that would be conducive. But we'd really like to get your feedback, because for our board, our 16-member board, this is what they look for. They look for how are the counties perceiving what Northern Lakes is doing, and how you think we're providing services, rate the job that we do, tell us about your knowledge of Northern Lakes and how we use community resources. 8 questions, can be pretty quick, and so I'd appreciate very much your filling that out and giving us that feedback, because then we compile it for all 6 of our counties, and then our board studies that and looks at the responses. And we added a new feature last year, which I hope you found helpful. There's the 8th question in the survey says, you can ask us any questions and we'll give you feedback. So if you have particular questions about the community, Northern Lakes and the services we provide, write that question down, and I will assure you that we will give you a response to that. So we want to be as open, transparent, and helpful as much as we can, because we do appreciate the fact you contribute over $600,000 of local funds to Northern Lakes. We appreciate that. Every county provides, and you'll see it's in the annual report, the amount of county contribution that each of the 6 counties gives. Not that that hasn't been a controversial issue in the past, but it provides you information on what each county contributes. Now, I want to just spend a couple of minutes. You've got the packet that starts on page 62 in your meeting packet, and it's a spreadsheet that lists information for all 6 of the counties that we serve. And in the second column, you'll see Grand Traverse. And as we go down that column, it'll provide the specific information and give you an idea of the services, number of people we serve, and so forth in Grand Traverse County. But you also have the information for comparative purposes for all of the other 6 counties. So I'm just going to very quickly walk through that and be mindful of your time. But the far left column starts with the services we provide, and they're in 7 different categories, going from assessments, case management, crisis, inpatient screening, inpatient services, psychiatric outpatient, residential, and living supports, skill building, and supportive employment. So if you go over 2 columns in Grand Traverse, you can see that the amount of money that's spent for those services in Grand Traverse County, starting at the top, $717,000 for assessments, and down the line, $11,300,072 for residential and living supports. Psychiatric outpatient, $2.7 million. Inpatient, $1.9 million. And it shows you by type of service the amount of dollars that are spent to provide services in Grand Traverse County. If you add other non-direct services, costs, and other administration and block grants and so forth, you add another $1.8 million. So the grand total cost by county is $23,429,215. Now, that's because we serve 2,000, if you keep going down the column, 2,564 people in Grand Traverse County. The average cost for a person seen is $9,138. Now, if you keep going down that column, and you can stop me anytime if you have questions if I'm not clear. We just break out these services by percentage of the whole. So you'll see assessments is 3.3%, inpatient 9%, residential and living supports 52%, all adding up to 100%. The number of service transactions right below that is 248,675. That's the number of service transactions that our staff and our contracted providers have provided in Grand Traverse County. Average cost, $94. Now, the services by population of the persons served is very important because, as we've talked about before, we serve 455 people with an intellectual or developmental disability out of the total 2,569. Adults with mental illness is 1,615. Children with mental illness is 499. The real shocker, though, is when you start going down and you look at costs by population. 455 people with intellectual and developmental disabilities use $12,382,024. 455 people. Now, that seems like a tremendous amount. But you look at, I mean, the result of deinstitutionalization, both on the mental health and also on the what we used to call mental retardation, the institutions for those individuals are closed. There are a few state facilities for mental illness, but people have been allowed and brought into community living. That comes with a cost. And you can see the 455 people. If it weren't for the residential services that we provide, they'd be in an institution like we used to have. So providing community, home and community-based services is an expensive proposition. The adults with mental illness, we spend $9.1 million. And children with mental illness, we spend about 9.1 and then 1.9 for children with mental illness. And then the last three rows are the cost per person. A person with an intellectual developmental disability costs on average $27,000. An adult with mental illness, $5,600, and a child with mental illness, $3,800. So I say all that to just inform you about what we're doing in Grand Traverse County. And I can't help but contrast your county contribution, which is very, very important to us, represents about 2.9% of that spending. So I think that the Community Mental Health Act, the way the state has structured the program, has been beneficial to Grand Traverse County as it has been for every county in the state of Michigan. So I think it's great, and we appreciate that you joined in the enabling agreement that allowed us in 2003 to form Northern Lakes by combining Leelanau and Grand Traverse County, which was the old Great Lakes Community Mental Health, and the old North Central Community Mental Health, which was made up of Wexford, Missaukee, Crawford, and Roscommon counties. So thank you for doing that back in 2003. So I'll just tell you, on page 63, it just gives you a one-pager that's just Grand Traverse County. So it doesn't have all the other county information on it, and it has a pie chart that shows you how the services are distributed. You know, on behalf of the 250 employees of Northern Lakes and in our 4 offices in Traverse City and Cadillac and Grayling and Houghton Lake, thank you for your support and contributions both by nominating 6 fantastic board members, which Commissioner Crawford is one, and also the continued support that you give us financially. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Dr. Lathrop?
We contribute about $600,000 a year, is that what you said?
That's $682,200 a year.
And we get $23,429,000 of service.
Correct.
Good deal.
I think so.
Good deal.
I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you, State of Michigan, thank you, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, that those funds come this way through Medicaid funding and through the general fund. It is a good deal. I mean, it was the way that our predecessors made this happen, made it possible, is benefiting to the community on an ongoing basis.
Commissioner Crawford?
Several weeks ago, as a board member of Community Mental Health, I was able to go and visit Traverse House, which is a clubhouse that Northern Lakes has right over here in their building. I didn't even know it was there. I've been to meetings there every month for almost 2 years, and didn't even know this clubhouse was there. And if you ever would like to know exactly the impact that Northern Lakes Community Mental Health has, ask Carl to set up a luncheon for you, or some way to go and meet the people that come to the clubhouse. They cooked us lunch, they served us, they talked with us about their lives and how much impact that has on them, that they have a place to go every day to try to find jobs, appropriate employment, and learn different skills to be able to deal with all kinds of things in their lives. They don't deal with things the way everybody else does. But there they find other people that deal with things the way they do. And it's quite a family. And so that I've found is, we also visited Club Cadillac in Wexford County. And that was the best experience of being able to see exactly the impact that the community mental health system has in our area. And that just the good that it does for those people to be able to be in our community.
Yes.
And feel part of it, and feel functioning, and not be set aside and set apart, and like they're different, because they really are more similar than not. So.
Yes.
Mr. Menzel?
Well, I just would like to build on the other comments in that Carl's first year was my last year at Beta, and we had the opportunity to work together because, as you can imagine, public transit works closely in providing transportation for a lot of those programs. And
Yes.
It was eye-opening for me to realize and become aware of the number of services that you provide in this community to at-risk individuals who would really have no other options. So it's very impressive, and we're fortunate as a community to have these kinds of resources, but we're also fortunate to have people like Carl who provide the leadership of the 250 people to make sure that they deliver those. So we worked through some transportation issues and how to improve those, and I found him to be very professional, and I enjoyed working with him, and I wanted to thank him for that, but also thank you for your leadership in providing the level and quality of services in these programs, because if it wasn't for good leadership, it wouldn't happen. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you for your kind words. And back at you.
Carl, I have a question as long as Captain Ritter is here.
Sure. Yep.
How are things going as far as mental health services in our jail? That's always been a concern.
Absolutely, and I was going to, they hadn't acknowledged Captain Ritter yet, but I find him a tremendous public servant who is always willing to collaborate, and I think he'll tell you how it's going.
All right.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I'm basically here tonight just to support Carl in case the $682,000 question came up, because that was recently brought up in the Sheriff's Department audit. You know, we had some issues originally with CMH. Carl and I were able to sit down, and I think we have a much different picture of what our community mental health treatment in the jail is. but I think it's a better service than what we originally got. So while the picture looks very different, I think the needs of the inmates are being met better now than what they were in the past. So
That's good to hear.
we're very
Thank you.
happy with that, and we want to make sure that there weren't any issues that we needed to discuss together, so.
All right.
Well, that's a compliment to both of you in that case.
I had one question.
Oh, Commissioner Grope, I'm sorry.
I wanted to talk about the 682,000. No, I wanted to say that I'm fortunate to have a job where I work with your staff every day. And I work on a daily basis with mentally disabled individuals, community, and homeless. And most of the people that walk through the doors of my office are having the worst time of their life. And CMH has been a solid partner for us in not only helping them find services, but also in making them feel like they're no different than anyone else. And that's my goal at work, is to let them know, yes, you're here because maybe things aren't going great, but one day they will. And I just wanted to let you know that my life has changed because of this job. I never knew what was going on out there, and I get to work with your staff every day, and they really do a tremendous job in helping people value themselves. And it does have to do with the $682,000, because when people are devalued, when people don't see any way out, they turn to things like drug and alcohol abuse, crime, suicide, things that, if you have to take the faces and the people out of it, do cost us money if we have to remove that and look at it as a commission, which you do. And I don't know any numbers, but I would be willing to bet it costs a lot more than $682,000 a year to incarcerate them or medicate them or do whatever we have to do. And it's better to see them turn into productive members of society. And I watch people every day that didn't think that they could work get up and go to a job or have a house of their own. And so it's been interesting listening to this last year, and I had a lot of questions for you about things to this year, now seeing the fruits of your labor every day. And it is a bargain, in my opinion, because the one thing that people don't realize is every one of us knows somebody struggling with mental health issues. There's no way it doesn't touch everybody in this community. So to think you're removed from it, you would be naive. So these dollars that we spend on behalf of the taxpayers do benefit the taxpayers, each and every one of them. Maybe their neighbor, maybe, their friend or their aunt, but it does benefit them. So I appreciate that, and I hope to see us have a really good relationship in the future, and thank you to your staff for what they do.
I will pass that on to them. Thank you very much. They are a dedicated group.
They are.
All right.
They're always there when I pick up the phone. And some people need help right away.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we've done 3 major changes in terms of how we structure ourselves and do business. We've changed how we deal with emergencies. We've gone from more of the model of, is the person at risk, are they a danger to themselves or others? We've broadened that to say that a crisis is defined by that person. And so if I feel I'm in a crisis, then I need crisis services. So I think we've broadened that. We've changed how we staff. We try to, again, under the light of saying, okay, is this going to be better for the people we serve? Because that's how we measure what we do, any changes we do. Is it going to be better for the people we serve? Not for anything related to us as staff, but what's the result? And in addition to that, 2 other things that we're doing. Northern Lakes has kind of been the tale of 2 cities. We had the 4 southern counties and the 2 northern counties. And we did things differently. We're changing that. We're becoming more uniform, becoming more consistent. Our chief clinical leaders who focus on adult mental illness, child mental illness, intellectual developmental disabilities are no longer regionally bound. They're to provide guidance to all of our staff in their particular area of expertise, whether it be in Houghton Lake or Traverse City. So we're trying to make things more uniform, more consistent, and we're changing our access system so that the way a person is assessed who is requesting services from us in Traverse City is going to be the same way it's done in Cadillac. So we're trying to do those things. It takes a while to make those kind of changes, but we're committed to do that because we know we have to be good public servants and good public stewards of the money that you give us and the money that we get from the state and other sources. So, thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Carl.
Oh, thank you for all your time. I appreciate it. And thank you for your public service. I know it's not an easy job. Thank you.
Number 8, we have no items removed from the consent calendar. Next, departmental items, 86 District Court, the Inter-County Agreement Amendment. I would like to begin a discussion regarding how this item ended up on this evening's agenda. This item was first brought to an agenda committee that included Jen DeHaan, Tom Menzel, Jody Lundquist, Chris Kramer, Carol Crawford, and myself. And we did have a brief discussion about it. What we said was Antrim County had not approved the agenda item. And as a matter of fact, I stated that Antrim County Commissioner Mike Crawford told me that in all likelihood Antrim County would not approve the agenda item. Commissioner Crawford mentioned that she heard a similar remark from Commissioner Mike Crawford as well. So we didn't have the details that we really needed to place it on the agenda. So we just simply said we'll take it and do it the first week in November. I had absolutely no clue that the date meant so terribly much, what date we discussed it. But apparently it did matter, and it mattered greatly to Judge Stepka. That having been said, we did not have the information that we needed to address it at the October meeting. Commissioner Kropa had a long list of questions, and the questions, as a general rule, go through the chair to staff for answers. I know that Jen DeHaan and Chris Forsyth that weekend were answering a question whether or not we, as a county board, could pass something simply by resolution or whether the contract had to be amended. This was all stuff that was going on after we heard Antrim County did agree to the change. So, in the meantime, it has been publicly stated by Judge Stepka that I did not want it on an agenda before the November 8th election because I would call attention to the fact that I am on probation in district court. Is there anyone in Grand Traverse County that does not know I am on probation through the district court?
I wouldn't think so.
That simply wasn't true. It isn't true. And here we are, November 2nd, before the November 8th election, and we are going to address it. As a matter of fact, court employees on social media were posting that I would not place this on tonight's agenda because I did not want to talk about the fact that I am on probation. It simply isn't and wasn't true. So, as a commissioner, I can place an item on the agenda, and I did so. Now, I want everyone to understand that our agenda process, there is no agenda dictator. No county chair, no commissioner can remove an item from an agenda if a commissioner would like to address it. It isn't in the board rules. It's never been done. And I want to clarify that misconception, if the public does have that misconception. This is a group decision that's discussed at an agenda meeting with commissioners and staff. And we come to a conclusion as to what should be placed on the agenda together. That having been said, I would like to address this inter-county agreement amendment tonight. I don't know how many of you read the Record Eagle article today, but I do want to make in case you haven't, I do want to make you aware that on the 20th at 3:50 p.m., I received a call from Tim Ahrens. His wife, Julie, was deputy court administrator in the circuit court. And he asked me why his wife didn't get the same opportunity Carol Stocking is getting. He also asked me what kind of animosity will there be with other employees that they have to pay towards their retirement, and she doesn't. And he said, in fact, that his wife may come back if that job were posted. Now, obviously, he was not speaking for his wife, and his wife may have different feelings. But this is what Mr. Ahrens told me. I was pleased that he confirmed in the newspaper what he told me. So where I would like to take this discussion is, if we do it for one, why don't we do it for all? I'd like to hear the board's feeling on that issue. If we do it for one, why don't we do it for all?
Can I ask my questions beforehand? Because
you may.
I believe that they addressed that issue, if that is okay with you.
You certainly may.
Okay.
Commissioner Kropa, you have the floor.
Just to fill in on the history here, because I believe I have been roped into some sort of shenanigans, which I wasn't. Leelanau and Antrim needed to pass this prior to Grand Traverse. And the truth be told is we have full-time jobs. Those of us that sit here work 50, 60, 70 hours a week at other jobs on top of being county commissioners. And many of you are aware that I over-research things. So, on the not quite sure chance that this was going to be on an agenda, I didn't start my process of researching it until Antrim County approved. When Antrim County approved, I received an email, I don't remember from who, perhaps Tom or Jen,
It was Tom.
someone, Chris Kramer, letting us know that Antrim County approved. Immediately, I followed board procedure and sent not one, not two, but 3 requests to Chris Kramer. I know she was probably, the last one was entitled, I swear this is the last request. And it had all of the questions that I had wanted to know about this proposal. So that takes some time, and Jen responded very nicely and said, we need some time. And I let them have some time. So I was not prepared to discuss it, as I explained at the last board meeting. So when we waded through, I needed some information about defined benefit employees and things that I needed to understand on numbers. We got down to some questions that had nothing to do with financial things. They were really just questions I had about her job. And so I wrote to Judge Stepka, Judge Phillips, and I did add on Ms. Rogers because you happened to volunteer at the last meeting to fill in some information. So what I did was send them some questions that had something entirely different to do than what I had sent to Jen and Chris Kramer regarding numbers. So these are just things. So unfortunately, I never heard back from Judge Stepka or Judge Phillips. I did not even receive an email that said, we got your email, but we're busy, or I didn't get anything at all. But Ms. Rogers did happen to be here today before the meeting and said that she would be willing to do this. And I would like to ask questions. The board can consider them. And I want to make a caveat that, first of all, I appreciate you answering these. I want everybody to know that Ms. Rogers is not Carol Stocking's direct supervisor. I am asking questions that would possibly need for her to have some conjecture as to what others think, and I'm not intending that. If they seem aggressive or I'm directing them at you, I just want you to understand that's not at all the matter in which I mean to ask them. I had hoped the judges would be here, but mostly I'd hoped that they would take the time to respond to my questionnaire, and they didn't. So in lieu of that, this is the best that we can do. So if I could ask you to come up and join us, perhaps this will, and if at any time you don't know something, or it's just conjecture, just say so. But I at least want to put the question out there for the board to hear and be able to consider themselves as well. So the first one is very simple, and who is Carol Stocking's direct supervisor?
Both Judge Stepka and Judge Phillips. I apologize I didn't correctly identify myself when I came up for public comment. So I'm sorry I didn't say my name and address before.
Well, we're going to have to ask you to leave.
That would be really good.
You've been looking forward to leaving, yeah. And as far as who works under Ms. Stocking and her role as district court administrator, just a curiosity on the amount of staff. It doesn't have to be exact, but just to give us an idea of where she falls in the hierarchy of the court flow chart.
So she handles all of the administrative personnel issues for the district court. So she is the first line, the front line, and mostly the end line for all of the personnel, human resources issues. So every person who is a employee with the district court directly is supervised by
Okay.
Carol Stocking.
Okay. And when Ms. Stocking was hired to be the court administrator, how long was she trained for?
You know, it's an ongoing process. She had about 23 years in human resources with the county first,
Yep.
which was a significant skill set, which the district court had sorely not had in the past. So Judge Benedict and Judge McCormick, then Judge Haley came. We didn't have a court administrator then. We had sort of
Oh, okay.
chiefs. And it was not a efficient or effective way of dealing with the personnel issues mostly, but also with the state court administrator's office, with issues regarding changes like the paperless world that we're moving into, and all sorts of those kinds of things. Carol has really taken a key role in those matters as well, and because of that, she has had ongoing training. Most of her expertise that was very necessary and needed at that time was in the human resources.
Now, don't the court employees, though, fall under the auspices of our human resources director at the county? Isn't that where any human resources issues would be solved, would be with Amy Carroll's department? Or do you have separate human resources at the court?
You know, there's a whole lot of gray areas and blurring lines between the county administration and the court's administration. So, for instance, immediate personnel issues, which might require a letter and a file, those are all handled within the district court.
Okay.
If somebody if steps are taken in order to remove somebody from a job, then certainly the administrative was Jen Seaman, works in conjunction with. But there was, in all of those times, there's never been a situation that Carol has not been intimately involved in all of those
And we have a
human
circuit court
resources.
administrator and a family court administrator as well.
However, the district court, our staff is much larger than the circuit court. The circuit court, for the court itself, has a limited amount of people. The county clerk also has people that work for the circuit court, or, you know, with
Yes.
the circuit court records. And the probate court has a smaller staff than the district court does.
Okay?
And may I add?
Yeah, please. I have to look
Carol
up an email.
provides not only for Grand Traverse County, obviously, but also for Leelanau and Antrim County as well.
Yes.
Direct supervision of all of the employees.
Okay, this is the next one.
And can I say one more
Oh,
thing?
yeah, please, feel free.
Yeah.
I got your request for those answers on Monday. So, okay.
There's
This
just
Monday.
There's
So
just
just a couple of days
There's only a
ago.
few
Sorry.
questions, and none of them require any research. They're just,
Right, and I did want to
Opinion
respond to you,
questions.
so I apologize, but I did just get it on Monday.
okay, we have, when Ms. Stocking is ill or on vacation, who assumes her duties?
So, you know, if she's ill for a day, and if an administrative issue comes up that she would have direct knowledge of, or we may be able to access her via email and/or cell phone, the judges are certainly able and somewhat willing
Okay.
to help out. But they really rely on Carol and her expertise in handling those things. She doesn't go on protracted vacations, none of us do. So hopefully issues that are of an emergent need. I guess we haven't had that situation where Carol has been absolutely absent and has not been able to assist in addressing those needs.
Part of being a department manager, which both Judge Stepka and Judge Phillips are, is to have plans in place and
Yeah.
manage their employees. So one thing I wonder is if Ms. Stocking were to have an unexpected accident or some kind of unplanned medical leave, which unfortunately at the county we know all too well has happened to us on many occasions. Not you, and I again want to reiterate, I don't really mean you, but is there a plan in place by a boss, as any of our other department heads would have in place when they have an employee that is ill or something that happens?
So again, hopefully it would never happen. There are.
Well, yes, definitely.
There are policy and procedure manuals that are available, and I would be able to step up to the plate. One of the other chiefs might be able to step up to the plate as well. But we are sorely in need of, and that's part of the reason why we're asking for Carol to assist us in the next 11 months. We are sorely in need of about 3 key positions in the district court, succession plans, mine being one of them. I am going to retire at some point.
You're not working here till you're 100? No?
78 or 80 maybe. Our chief clerk and her position, we need to be able to have succession plans in place. Right now, we're dealing with a new drug court, and we're working in conjunction with the community corrections program in providing a probation officer, but again, it's sort of, blurred lines, and we're trying to get all of that worked out together, but we also have a chief probation officer. So those key succession plans, absolutely necessary. And something that we should have done in the past, but we're working.
So you don't feel that they're in place right now?
No,
Okay.
we're
That was, I
hard at
think, what I
work.
was just going to, because I know we have that in many of our departments, as any good manager would.
Yep. And so think about that too. Carol is the manager. If you're thinking in those terms, the judges are judges, and that's their job. Their job is to be on the bench and to do the judicial work. Carol is the manager. And there is a whole lot of management issues that happen within the court system. And we have 3 counties. There's not too many district courts that have 3 counties like us. None others that have as much work as we do, and 2 judges now. We used to have 3. Another issue which has sort of thrown us into a new world as far as how it is that we do our business. So it used to be there was more judge days in Grand Traverse County. We have less judge days here now because we have to have judge days in Antrim County, and thank goodness we have a judge who is assisting in Leelanau County. There's still times that the judges have to travel to Leelanau County. So all of that also has to be taken into consideration. It truly is a team effort, and the judges are very much in that leadership role as far as guiding that team. But there are others, like Carol, key in making sure that the court can do its job and do it effectively and efficiently and with respect.
Okay. I'm going to read an email now. I'm sure you know which email I'm reading. It really has nothing to do with you, but I'm going to read it out loud. This is an email, if I can get to it. This is an email from Carol Stocking that is dated Thursday, February 11th, 2016. That's this year. So roughly, 9 months ago. It's addressed to Tom Menzel and Jennifer DeHaan. It says, "Good morning. I am on vacation in Arizona, but have learned that the latest candidate for the HR manager position has withdrawn. The HR department needs leadership, and the employees need a strong director. I am the right candidate and am available to assume the duties and responsibilities immediately. I would love to sit down and talk with you about my background experience and my plans going forward. I will forward my resume in a separate email to follow. Thank you for your consideration." Signed, Carol Stocking. So my questions for you are, on February 11th, 2016, Ms. Stocking emailed Tom Menzel stating, "I am the right candidate and am available to assume the duties and responsibilities immediately," in reference to the still unfilled job of HR director. Prior to that, on May 11th, 2015, Ms. Stocking applied for the position of HR Director for Grand Traverse County after she served on the committee that went through all of the applications for the HR Director. So my question's in regards to both of these applications, one in 2015, one in 2016. Did she inform her supervisors, the judges, that she was applying for the job of HR director?
She did.
Were her supervisors, if they did have knowledge of her application, aware that she had said she could fill the position immediately, as in leave the district court immediately?
Yes, they had full conversation.
Okay.
Not to say that they were very much in favor of it. by the
Right, no,
way.
I understand that. So not only in 2015, but in 2016, what was the contingency plan for her replacement had Ms. Stocking been hired? I mean, she did fill out an application, so that process was going on. Had Grand Traverse County hired her, as you are aware, we were without a HR director for a while, so that would have been an immediate role that she would fill. What was the contingency plan for somebody to be hired?
The normal hiring process, as far as accepting applications and going through those, she would have assisted the judges in making choices as far as who would have been interviewed, as far as training. And so the next piece of that, Carol would have certainly been available, even if it were outside of her other work hours, if there were need for that transition for another person. Again, the judges were not very happy that she might take a different job. They understood her interest in taking a look at a different job within the county. She does have wonderful human resource skills. She's a wealth of knowledge with regard to personnel issues. We were lucky that she wasn't chosen. But we would have, and we will, in December, we expect that she's going to retire. So we will have to do those things. Hopefully, she'll still be available. The State Court Administrator's Office might also provide assistance, but they can't do the job that she does, and they don't have the particular knowledge of all of our working specifically in Grand Traverse, Leelanau, and Antrim County.
But had she gotten a very high-paying job as the HR director, she would have been expected to work full-time for Grand Traverse County as the HR director.
Absolutely.
Originally, Judge Stepka went to Leelanau County asking for 30 months. It takes 30 months to replace and train Carol Stocking. Leelanau County, of course, knocked that down to 11 months. My question would be, would there have been an 11 to 30-month training period for her replacement had she been hired to be the new HR director?
Again, not just for her, but for succession plans, also for other key positions within the district court, for working with all of the programs that we have going, the new ones that are coming on, new drug court, the drug court that exists, the paperless world that we are moving towards. It's kind of surprising to me how much time and effort that takes within our court to get that up and running. So 30 months was not outside the realm of what would have been nice, to have allowed her to sort of back her way out. 11 months is, as far as we're concerned, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely necessary. 30 months, I think, was chosen because of MERS. So that's the truth. That's the bottom line. It's not because it was a magic number.
Okay. In an August 28th Record Eagle article, Ms. Stocking stated, "I am going to draw my pension whether I become a Leelanau County employee or an employee of some other business in the area. I am not staying at Grand Traverse County." I would like to know why the courts have not posted on the county website for Ms. Stocking's replacement. If indeed we need this much time to train, then logic would have dictated that the position would have been listed shortly after the April 27th resolution was passed, or at the very least, on August 28th when Ms. Stocking made it public. We know we have a lot of work to do to get people trained and hired in the courts. And the fact that it was all reliant upon not one, not two, but 3 County Board of Commissioners approving a contract change, why would you take that risk? If indeed Ms. Stocking says, "I am done at the end of the year," you're left with nobody to train and help you hire somebody, and you put all your eggs in the basket of 3 different county boards of commissioners. So I'm curious why I haven't even seen the job posted if we know she's leaving.
Well, Again, the truth is, we believed in the beginning that Grand Traverse County was supportive. Those original talks then, I believe that that was the general idea, was that Grand Traverse County was supportive because it saves money. I don't know where and how that changed, but the other work in the other counties was successful. And so, yeah, shame on us maybe that we didn't think that one of the counties was not going to support our efforts in, and it's not just training. So,
Right.
Again, so it's not just training, it is actually doing the work of and administration of the courts,
That's a lot to base on
Well,
21 different county commissioners of different backgrounds and counties and philosophies. I was very surprised. I had consistently checked to see whether the job had been posted. There are many people that want to apply for this job in
I was
Grand Traverse
interested to
County.
hear that in your comment.
Many people want
yeah.
to apply for this job. So when people read in the paper that somebody was leaving, for instance, Ms. Ahrens was also in the paper talking about leaving. Of course, people were interested in her job, and it was posted. And then Ms. Stocking talked about leaving. Similar circumstances. Yet she
So,
didn't.
and so those are the two places which would have inter-county agreements, just the circuit court
Correct.
and the district court,
Correct.
the only two. And so it would really be just those two employees. This isn't precedent-setting for the rest of all of the counties.
Well,
because
I
only
will address that later on.
Okay, sorry.
Which is why I needed Ms. DeHaan's information before I even went to the courts to get an idea of what I was talking about. In general, and I wrote a little summary to you just to fill you in on where I was thinking, I just said, to me, this is a request for a policy change for one single employee, and not for a position or a department policy, which is typically what the County Board of Commissioners considers, as you would agree, I'm sure. Therefore, I'm requesting that the Board of Commissioners be given detailed information about this one specific employee, why I've gone on ad nauseum learning about her job and not the whole job of the district court, for instance. It helps justify giving her something that other employees don't have the opportunity to get. I would be much more comfortable considering a request for change of policy for all employees. On April 28th, the County Board of Commissioners passed a resolution asking and letting them know that beginning January 1st, defined benefit employees would be contributing 10% to their retirement. So they had 8 months to consider whether that was something good for them, for their budget, for their family, for whatever their needs were at the time. And I know that we've had employees weighing it. For instance, Ms. Ahrens. That was a very public weighing of it, and we all were aware of where she went with that. So Carol isn't alone. She's one of many employees that are thinking of how this change is going to impact their family, certainly in conjunction with a health care premium change. I would like to know why this specific employee has a job that is so different from any of the other of the 500-plus positions in Grand Traverse County. First of all, that it required a 30-month training period. We did discuss that. And why she has duties that elevate her beyond the other employees, thereby giving her the right of a special privilege. And this is a special privilege. This is a benefit.
Absolutely.
We talk about a cost savings of $20,000, but that would be like going to some employee at, the facilities department, giving one a $20,000 raise and taking $20,000 from the other, and he wonders why did this. Yeah, I mean, you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
It is a benefit and it is a special privilege for her not to contribute to her defined benefit like her fellow coworkers. I wanted you to know that I looked up, with the help of Ms. DeHaan, all of our defined benefit employees at the county, each of their roles, their departments, and their specific situations. There are 32 other active defined benefit employees in the circuit court that could do the same thing that Ms. Stocking is doing. There's one other defined benefit employee in the district court and one other defined benefit employee in the family court. So as of the current standing resolution, we have a total of 34 employees. I subtracted 2, Judge Rogers and Ms. Ahrens, because they were also on that list. We have a total
Excuse
of 30.
me, I don't think that there's another one in the district court.
I have the list. Jen, if you could.
There is, it's a member of the bargaining unit.
Okay.
Yep. So there are 34 employees in total that if Ms. Stocking were to get this deal would say, I'm part of an inter-county court agreement. Why do I have to contribute to my defined benefit? Maybe I'll leave Grand Traverse County too and I'll train for 11 months or 30 months or whatever it is. So it's not about Ms. Stocking as much as it is about her fellow employees. And then we go on to talk about the defined benefit employees that exist in our multiple other departments that are not part of an inter-county court agreement.
Correct.
They look at it and say, just because I'm in the court, or not in the court department, I don't even have this benefit. And it would have given people an extended time to perhaps pursue other employment or make those decisions that they need to make for their own budget. So I am curious about what would stop these employees from wanting the same deal and being very unhappy with the fact that one employee is now doesn't have to pay for her defined benefit. She saves 10% there. She receives a paycheck from Leelanau County. She coincides by receiving a paycheck for her pension from Grand Traverse County, all while keeping her same office and her job. While these other employees are keeping their same office and their job, they're paying 10% to their retirement. They're getting the same paycheck. They are not collecting a pension from Grand Traverse County. And the animosity that it would create, there is already enough animosity in the employees, but there are certain employees that are very concerned that if this passes, that it means that someone got special treatment. So we need to understand, as a county board, being asked to set a policy for one employee, why that one employee is so different from the other 500 employees at the county.
Judge Stefka and Judge Phillips can't speak to the other 500 employees. They can speak to the service that Carol Stocking has provided to the counties of Grand Traverse, Antrim, and Leelanau counties, to the people who have worked at the district courts in those 3 counties, as well as the people who we provide services for. So the judges know that. They don't know the other employees. And you're right. It is a special situation. I was an employee in 1999, and I was an employee in 2006. We had, at those times, early buyouts. We had a decision to make, and I was one of those who chose defined contribution rather than, I made that choice. I signed maybe the wrong line, I'm not sure. But so I am on a defined contribution, not defined benefit, although I could have been. But we have employees in the district court that are in exactly that position, that are receiving a pension and yet are working full-time in the district court. So I know that the law, maybe not the law, rules changed with MERS, so that those are grandfathered in. I understand that, but those people are in exactly that same position. And there are very many of those in the county, a few of which are in the district court. So if you're comparing just that benefit itself, there are already people here who have that benefit. That people, 32, I think you said, may or may not be able to access that benefit from here going forward. I'm really sorry that might be true. The judges took up this case for Carol specifically. Again, they didn't know the others, the other employees. It is a privilege, absolutely, no question about it. And you know, if I were on one of their sides looking into it, I might question it myself and be envious, absolutely. But that's not to say that it's not still a significant and honorable and respectful request for the district courts working.
Absolutely. It's just, we need to identify it as what it is,
Absolutely.
which is a request for a special.
It is.
A special thing for one person. It's no different than a department head coming and asking for a raise for one
Yes, ma'am.
person, but that certainly is looked at differently. One of the biggest mistakes Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners did was allowing people to come back after they had been bought out. We all know that. That was a mistake that
I don't think it's a mistake because we have some wonderful employees.
Well, I don't doubt that about the employees. I'm talking about as our current pension situation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely an error. And so we want to be careful not to make that error again. But absolutely, the people that are here are valued employees that took that, and they were offered it by the Board of Commissioners.
Yes, ma'am.
They had every opportunity to do that, and I probably would have done what you did, and I would have taken that and done the defined contribution had I been there. But now we are where we are in 2016, and we're trying not to make those kind of errors again. And as you mentioned, MERS did stop
Yes.
that process from being allowed.
Yes,
There's a
and-
reason why MERS stopped it from being allowed, and that's because it created a deficit hole that was difficult to dig out of.
But this would not. Becoming an employee for a different county, and that county still has defined benefit, by the way. But she would not be able to access that
Because they
defined.
limited her to
Because they
11
limited,
months.
that is exactly right. So even though this is a special circumstance for one particular person, all of those, it would appear to me, all of those questions have been answered, and it would not put her in a position different than one of the other employees taking a job, full-time job somewhere else, also drawing a pension. And frankly, you know, she's younger than I am. So she's going to work, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we would like the benefit of her expertise and her knowledge and her ability to assist us in replacing her, also coming up with plans to assist in those other key positions for succession plans as well.
Well, I want to thank you, because I know that this was not your job to answer these questions, and I want to thank you for doing so kindly and respectfully. And this process that we just went through normally would be done via email.
I'm sorry.
It would be sent to our county administrative secretary. She would distribute it to all 7 of the county commissioners, just to let people know how our process works. So I'm sorry I had to do this, and I'm really glad you were here
no
for
problem.
this, so that we can benefit from the knowledge that you shared with us on many of the open-ended questions that I believe more than just myself had about her job. So
Okay.
I want to
And-
thank you for that.
You're very welcome, and I am absolutely happy to answer now that I've made it through this.
You
I'm-
did great. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to.
But that's okay. But I'm very
Yeah.
happy to answer any other questions as well, and then to invite any person who has questions to the court. Please, come visit us.
You did do great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson?
Has she filed for retirement yet? Does anyone know?
Nothing has come through my office at this time.
Okay, and what is if you file for retirement, is there a point of no return once you say you're going to retire? Where you can revoke that within a certain amount of time?
I would have to review both the county's and MERS policy. There is an application process. MERS has the defined benefit application form that would be filled out by someone intending to retire with their anticipated termination date, so their date of termination from employment from the county, and then the effective date of the retirement benefit would be confirmed by MERS.
And then I also do question the savings. If you're going to hire someone then too, you're still going to have that additional cost in there. Because it makes no sense then to go 11 months without hiring somebody and trying to train them those whole 11 months.
Right, but with the savings, we heard that we'll get our budget, and the budget will be the budget. So with working within that budget, the savings would be able to offset some of the cost of hiring a new person for that overlapping time. And again, it's not just for training. So that whole 11 months, I'm not, and I don't know that the judges would expect it to be totally for having 2 people who really are filling that job. That's not what's going to happen.
And-
I'm sorry.
And I mean, just a general comment to me is the fact that with this act and this action, to me, the judges are saying, we don't have anyone that works for us now that can stand up and do what she does. And is that true?
I think that might be a pretty fair statement. For all that she has on her plate, as today, there is probably not a person in the district court that shares her total, her global view of what happens in all 3 counties. So there might be somebody in Grand Traverse County who knows a lot about what's happening in Grand Traverse County. There might be somebody in Leelanau County and in Antrim County, but to have that, the global
But you've got nobody
view-
that can figure that out?
Sure we do, probably. But to take
I
somebody...
know, I would take offense if I worked in that department with this big time, because then they would be saying, you don't have the qualities to step in this position and learn what it takes. I mean,
Well,
most jobs you take, somebody retires, you know, most companies, I hate to say it, the one I work for, there's no succession planning. I wish there was. But somebody retires, somebody else steps in, and they learn on the job.
So, first of all, we know that there is absolutely no person that's irreplaceable. Yes, we get that. But second of all, we are very bare-boned staffed right now. So all of the probation officers are doing their job and are working full-time doing their jobs. All of the magistrates, there's a couple more, we're all doing our jobs. So to say that we would take somebody from within, we would then have to train a person to come from that position. I love my job, and am not interested in the administrator position. I'm not sure of other people who, within our organization, have shown an interest. I think that there might be a couple of others, but again, they're working full-time as well, and so that's a double whammy. We would have to also fill their position. The work that we do...
But you don't know that yet, that you might not select that person anyway. You know, so you could select, if someone within applies for that position and gets that position,
Right.
then you still have that hole
Right.
to fill.
Right, that's what I mean. So that's a double...
it's, you know, you're acting as if it's not going to be someone within the department that's going to
absolutely
get that
not.
position. And again, I don't know how long a residency of medical school is. 30 months that they were talking about. I know that was just pure gamemanship on trying to game the system to
You can get a registered nursing degree in 2 years.
Yeah,
Again, it was not just for training purposes, so that somehow we became solely focused on that it was for training the new person.
Well, why wouldn't it be?
Well,
Why wouldn't it be?
It's not. It's to...
I mean, why wouldn't you then take, if you're going to say, we're doing this first succession and to make sure there's an easy transition, why wouldn't you hire someone at day one and start training them? That part I don't understand.
Well, because we don't have the budget for that.
Well, then how are you going to be successful at this if you can't? I guess I don't know if I understand this right then on that part, because what I would say is, because I would support this if it's 6 months. I have no problem with something like 6 months. But I guess I don't understand how you can't hire somebody and start training. And if you're not going to, then what are you doing in the meantime? I know you're working on succession planning, but that's all well and good until you actually have someone in place to start training them.
Right. So if it were 6 months, we would have to post the job and start...
I'm still stunned that it hasn't been posted personally. With
How do
all
you
the
know?
pressure we're getting from the judges that it's not posted.
We've been very hopeful that it was
Either
not
way,
going to
if
be
she thinks she's going to
necessary.
retire, I would have done it.
leaving. She
And
said so in the paper.
I don't mean to be confrontational, I guess, with you.
Yes,
And I know she does a wonderful job, and I would have the same feeling for anybody. I do, the double dipping thing, I know we have employees that do it, and I personally think we need a policy that limits it to 6 months.
This is an opportunity to stop it. One thing I don't like is that we have a bunch of employees, one of them is Miss Ahrens, Ms. Ahrens.
Mrs. Ahrens.
Mrs. Ahrens, all right. But there's others, like you mentioned, 30 of them. I just don't, in fairness to them, that's the biggest issue to me. In fairness to them, I just can't, I don't like this. And I don't think it saves us that much money. Jody Lundquist gave me some figures here. The net increase for us with double dipping is going to be a $40,000 increase, $40,967.38. So, it saves money in a way, but once she starts double dipping, there's no money saving.
And I don't know if you can consider the double dipping. Are you considering her retirement salary?
Now, when you give them both together,
but I don't think that should be included
No, sir.
in the numbers of the savings, because that's not, if she retires, that's going to be there anyway.
There's a lot of people that retire from somewhere else and come to Grand Traverse County, and we don't adjust their salary or not take them as an employee simply because they're getting a pension from somewhere else.
Well, still, though, to do this just with one person, I do agree. If we're going to do it for one person, it ought to be an opportunity for everyone. It just isn't fair.
Right, and again,
and giving people special dispensation is part of the reason that we're in this financial problem that we're in already. Remember that this board unanimously decided on the 20% copay for the insurance, and 5 of the 7 decided on the 10% pay for defined benefit. So it was a pretty big, and this was part of the advice from our administrator to try to have a financial stability plan. We are close to $70 million in debt, if you look at the real numbers. So, 2 ways. One way, this is not fair to their employees, and 2, we're shooting ourselves in the foot in our own financial stability plan.
Tammy, Ms. Rogers, thank you so much. I have someone wishing to make public comment in the back, and I'm going to...
Can I ask one more thing?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
If we fully develop this.
And then we'll talk amongst ourselves.
If this got approved, what is the plan then for those 11 months? At what point are you going to bring someone else on to train?
So our budget is going to somewhat drive that issue, and we're not really sure of what that's going to look like for 2017 yet. So that's another piece of this puzzle that we are waiting on in order to answer. It will take 6 months. Just throwing that out there.
And seriously,
I
would approve a 6-month time frame for a transition with no problem.
Does that include November and December as being 2 of those 6 months?
No, after she...
You're talking through July.
Yeah, whenever she officially retires, and I have no problem supporting 6 months. And I know, yes, you would love to have 11 months or 30 months. Everybody would love to have extra time. But what I guess I hear is a good plan, even with the 11 months, because, again...
So please come to the court so that maybe I might not be articulating well enough the necessity of not just the training, but of all of the other programmatic issues that the court is dealing with, that Carol is key to in tying up, in handing off to another person and training them to do, so not somebody that would step into maybe her shoes. I'm also very willing, I don't want to take up somebody else's time as well, I'm very willing to talk at a study session or a different time, if that would be more helpful for the public at large as well. But truly, it is a necessary thing, obviously, that the judges are so committed to, that they think is very necessary, and so I am just asking for your very considered and respectful consideration. Thank you.
All right. We have a gentleman who would like to make public comment. Come on up.
My name's Tony Ansargi, 10101 East Carter Road, Traverse City, 49684. I'm speaking only for myself and not any other group. I'm the Leelanau County District 1 County Commissioner, and I'm here to explain why I supported amending the 86th District Court Intercounty Agreement that's on tonight's agenda. I was not asked to speak by any other person, and while I sit through enough of these types of meetings in Leelanau County, I felt it important to hear why I voted as I did on this issue. The oath of office we all take when assuming office has us swear to uphold the constitutions of the United States and Michigan. Both constitutions establish the judiciary as a separate branch of government, where the county commissioners control the budget, but the judges run the operations of the court. Neither the county commission nor the county administrator manages the employees, dictates court policies or procedures, or supervises day-to-day operations of the court. We don't tell the court who to hire or fire, how much to pay them, when they should work, what work they should be doing, or who to hire or fire, evaluate how they are doing their work. We do the budget. That's it. It's up to the judges as a separate branch of government to run the court. If we truly want to uphold the Constitution's separations of power, we will not start trying to micromanage the court and its employees. So what's involved with tonight's agenda item? from a pure budget standpoint, the court is asking you to save about $20,000 in your budget for next year. Sounds like a no-brainer, especially if you want to uphold the constitutional separation of powers. That is why I supported amending the intercounty agreement when it came before Leelanau County. I believe in upholding the constitutions and that judges are due deference in how they choose to run the courts. I saw no reason to politicize the issue when it came before our board, and I see no reason for you to do so tonight. So it is still my recommendation that you approve amending the intercounty agreement to save all 3 counties money next year, because after removing all the static revolving around this issue, that is what it comes down to. It saves all 3 counties money, and Grand Traverse County the most. But I don't reside in Grand Traverse County. I do still have the privilege of paying taxes on property in the county. So that's my 2 cents worth, and I'm frequently told that's what it's worth as a taxpayer. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make public comment on this issue? All right. Is there a motion?
Lisa?
I will make a motion to approve the intercounty agreement amendment and allow Carol Stocking to have preferential treatment over all of the other Grand Traverse County employees
For how long?
for a period of 11 months, as our counterparts in Leelanau and Antrim voted.
Is there support? Supported by Dr. Johnson. We'll need a roll call, please, Sarah.
Do we have any
Oh,
further
yes,
discussion?
certainly.
I just want to say, I agree that the procedures for replacing Carol Stocking should have started a long time ago, when pretty much everybody knew she was going to be leaving. She's leaving either way. And that being said, it's not our job to punish the court and say, you should have done it, and you didn't do it, and so now we're not going to help you. We have the opportunity to help here and to allow them to, even though they didn't do it before, to replace her in a responsible way so that people aren't left hanging. And as much as some of the other employees may feel she gets preferential treatment, those are the employees that will be left hanging when she's gone. If she is, gone December 31st, those are the employees that have to pick up the slack as well. So that will be faltering somewhat, I suspect. I've heard very good things about Carol, and that she is a very valued employee by everyone there at the district court. And so it's not our job it's our job to say you should have done it sooner. It's not our job to not help in any way that we can now that this situation does exist. So, and I agree with our fellow commissioner from Leelanau County that the judges do run this particular section of our government, and as they should. It's theirs. We have the purse strings, but they do run it. So I will be supporting this.
Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, again, I'll support a 6-month one. Right now, I haven't heard of a plan for this 11 months, really, quite frankly, because the savings, I still don't see the savings. If they hire someone to replace her, you're going to have that additional cost. And if you're not replacing her, then you've wasted 11 months.
If the motion fails, I'll look to you to raise your hand. Okay. All right. Roll call, please, Sarah.
Kropa?
No.
Crawford?
Yes.
Johnson?
No.
Lathrop?
No.
Max Bauer?
Abstain.
I have a question. Are you allowed to make the motion and vote no?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done it many times.
Just clarify. Just clarify.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I will make a motion that we approve a 6-month inter-county agreement amendment. But again, I'd love to see a real plan come into place other than just 6 months, but that'll be my motion. I would approve a 6-month inter-county agreement amendment subject to Leelanau and Antrim county approving such, too.
Is there support?
I'll support
that. Oh, either way.
Okay, moved by Dr. Johnson, supported by Commissioner Crawford. Once again, Miss Sarah, we will do a roll call.
Crawford?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Lathrop?
No.
Croupa?
No.
Maxmeyer?
Abstain. Motion fails. Anyone else? All right. We are moving on to Administration Board of Commissioners, Human Services Board, request for full board interviews. That would be me.
Can we
Oh,
go back
certainly.
1 second?
Sure.
I just want to clarify in my mind, since we do have 2 commissioners missing.
Yes.
If the other, say Leelanau and Antrim decides to go and do a 6-month agreement, since this lost, it would be up to one of the members that voted against it to bring it back to the vote, correct?
It would, and I would also say that under the current inter-county district court operating agreement, there is a dispute mechanism where the judicial committee for the district court meets and talks about resolving dispute.
Okay.
And that dispute involves not only the interpretation of the agreement, but any modification.
So what's that mean?
So that means the committee of the judges,
We all knew it
the
wasn't.
chairpersons of the respective boards and commissioners, the administrators, finance directors, they get together in a committee and see if they can work this out. That's under the terms of the agreement.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Human Services Board, request for full board interviews. That would be me. What I have suggested is that we interview as a full board our DHS applicants just like we do road commission applicants. The reason for that is the road commission is responsible for their own labor contracts. They hire their own labor attorneys. They have their own funding for their budget. And the only thing they really do is report to the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners. The DHS board is much the same way, but if you take a look at how it's appointed, it's even more important. The governor has one appointment. The county board has 2 appointments. There are 3 DHS board members. And the DHS board members serve over the Grand Traverse Pavilions, as well as Department of Human Services services. So they also enter into their own labor contracts. We are not a part of that in any way, shape, or form. And I think it is an appointment that is as important, if not more important, than the road commission. So I would like to hear from board members whether or not you agree with me. I think it makes more sense for all 7 board members to weigh in on who we put on the pavilions and DHS board, just like we do road commission, instead of an ad hoc. Do I hear any objection to doing that?
I don't have any objection to
All
that.
righty.
Are they 2 separate boards, pavilions and DHS, or
No.
are they together?
They're the same,
They're the same.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
but they're over those 2 separate
The only
things.
thing I want to add is, in addition to revising the policy, we're going to have to revise Board Rule 15.2, which says the chairperson selects an ad hoc committee, shall select an ad hoc committee. So we're just going to have to tweak that as well.
Yeah, I just think that these 2 boards deserve the attention of all 7 county commissioners. And I'm happy that the board agrees with me. And the next item on the Administration Board of Commissioners is policy amendment. So that would take care of, you would finish addressing the policy, Chris?
Yes, yeah.
All right. Okay. Next, old unfinished business, updated finance
Oh,
numbers.
you know what, Chris, if you could vote on that, the motion would be to change the policy, and the board will rule to allow the full board to do interviews.
Would someone like to
So
make that-
moved.
Dr. Johnson.
I'll support it.
Just, all right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. All right. Updated finance numbers. Our illustrious finance director.
Thank you. So in reporting on the question that was posed by Judges Rogers and Power, the audit firm for the county prepared a report in November of 2015 that projected for fiscal year 17 a $4.1 million deficit. Upon the request of a number of elected officials, the county treasurer provided a separate or individual analysis creating a fiscal year 17 projected deficit, the amount of that being $670,000. The judge's inquiry was to provide a reconciliation between those two projections, how Riemann had come to $4.1 million and the treasurer $670,000. The treasurer then, working with Steve Peacock of Riemann, did identify 5 main factors in the underlying assumptions for those projection reports. And if I could back up, projections are commonly used for long-term planning and policy purposes. We're now currently in the fiscal year 17 budget preparation process, which is far more detailed, relies on an incredible number of inputs, including those requested amounts by actual department heads, whereas projections are simply assumptions. You know, they're taking where we are at some point in time and setting certain parameters. So in going through that, Steve Peacock and Heidi Sheppy identified, again, these 5 main areas, 2 of them resulting from differences in assumptions on revenue. In looking back through his documentation, Mr. Peacock reported that he had not used an assumption of any liquor tax revenue or state revenue sharing being received in fiscal year 17, whereas the treasurer's analysis did rely upon the assumption that those revenues would be received. On the expenditure side, Steve Peacock had anticipated the county would contribute to its OPEB plan the full required amount under its annual contribution schedule, whereas the county treasurer had used the fiscal year 16 budget plus only 2%. Similarly, with our annual required contribution to our pension plan, Riemann had used our actuarial valuation report and the $5.2 million, where again, the treasurer had used the fiscal year 16 budget plus 2%. Finally, the county anticipated at the time dam removal costs estimated at $1 million. At the time of the preparation of the report, Riemann had assumed that those costs would be paid over 2 years, so he had included $500,000 for those dam removal costs, whereas the county's adopted budget for fiscal year 16 had anticipated it would be paid over 3 years. Cumulatively, these differences did reconcile fairly closely, her projection to his. Again, the only true number at this time for fiscal year 17 will be the one that the board adopts when a recommended budget comes before it to do so.
Okay.
Any comments?
Well, I was just going to say that all of that information would have, if they had looked at the videotape when Mr. Peacock presented, they probably could have found out what those differences were, because when he presented his findings, that was all in the report, and then when he verbally did it, he mentioned that too, about the liquor tax and the revenue sharing and the dams and
he did.
all that. So
Yeah, it was in the video.
So we're closer together. I mean, Heidi realizes that estimate was a pretty good estimate as far as our deficit. Is that my understanding of where we're at right now?
So with respect to the state revenue sharing and the liquor tax revenues, being primary differences. If you were to equalize those, you'd fall in between.
So basically, Raymond said we were going to have about a $4 million plus deficit, and we are going to have a $4 million plus deficit.
Well, I would absolutely hope that we do not. It
No, I
will
mean,
come. But I think that, so ultimately, I heard myself quoted earlier, but there was a missing is a deficit, because ultimately a deficit is a deficit is a deficit. And so the treasurer's projection was, they were able to reconcile the two projections, but in neither circumstances is a deficit a good thing to have. And so it highlights that when setting policy and planning for the county's future, there are some very difficult decisions that will have to be made as we're strategically planning to move forward.
I think it's interesting to know that Raymond did, maybe didn't take this account into that account, but the net effect after the two talk was pretty much Raymond's number. And, am I right?
So Raymond did confirm that they had documentation and found that the assumptions at the time that they created the report in November 2015 were valid.
Okay.
And they did say they stand by their numbers. And I would like to publicly thank Steve Peacock at Raymond. They put an inordinate amount of time into reconciling those numbers.
And I think they did it at no charge.
They did it at no charge.
18 hours at no
Yeah.
charge.
And it's a shame that people just didn't, that were questioning, just didn't watch the video.
Have we, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, have we determined if we're losing, how much we're losing on the liquor revenue? Because I know that was getting...
That is a fantastic question that I would love to report back to you on.
Because I remember he got those from Mr. Bott originally, and that was the impression we had, was we were losing. those
We are.
revenues.
We are. I received a letter as chair, and I shared it with Dean Bott at the time, that our liquor tax was going to be cut in half. And I don't know why, but it's the number of about $670,000.
It was over 600, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems to, it was a significant impact in our budget.
I was the one that asked the question of Mr. Peacock about that, because there was such a substantial difference in the two. And I said, why do we have so much less revenue projected
Yeah.
versus it? And he explained, he explained about the liquor tax.
Yeah.
We talked about Cobo Hall or
Yes, it's
something.
going downstate.
Cobo Hall. Yeah.
Yes, it's going downstate. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any new business? This is our second opportunity for public comment. There's no stampede to the podium. Commissioner reports? No? Okay, notices?
We go out, get out and vote, and we have the veterans millage and the road millage on the...
Do we require a closed session? We are adjourned. Thank you all.
On your way to...
Greg doesn't want to.